Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the podcast. As always, really jazzed to have you here. So we are in the midst of a series where I'm unpacking 10 lessons that I learned from spending an amazing weekend with 15 of the internet's top creators. A little backstory, if you haven't listened to the previous episodes, is my buddy Max Hurton, fantastic entrepreneur, creator. He put on this little event, just rented out a house, an Airbnb out in California, invented 15 creators that he looks up to, and we all got together and we just talked shop and shared secrets and just had a good weekend hanging out and relaxing. And so this was an amazing opportunity for me to learn from some of the best in the game and to really, in a lot of ways, be just a fly on the wall, like just listening. I was trying to spend as much time consuming their knowledge rather than trying to share my own insights or anything like that. So I tried to take more than I gave in many ways, not from like a position of like, oh, I don't want you to know my secrets, but just because there was so much wisdom and experience in that group that I just wanted to soak it all in. And, you know, we had guys in there that had like multiple millions of subscribers on YouTube, just fantastic guys. And I mentioned this before, but this was the one of the most controversial posts I've ever made, I guess, on Twitter. It got like the woke culture tried to shut me down and cancel me because I shared a picture, and it is 14 white dudes and one Asian dude. And there was just a huge backlash because I guess there's rules against white dudes getting together and not, you know, being more inclusive of other genders and other ethnicities. So that's a topic for another day, which I am going to unpack in a upcoming episode, because I think it's an important topic to talk about. But it's not what we're going to dive into today. Instead, we're going to dive into lesson number 2. This one is confidence, not ego. And so what I found so powerful and amazing about this event, being around these people who are like legitimately amazing rock stars at what they do, like truly incredible people, is that they never felt the need to like posture. There was no chest thumping and being like, look what I did, and like, look at my accolades, or like comparing like dicks or anything like that. There was nobody talking over anybody else and trying to dominate the conversations and make it all about them. And what I walked away from was realizing that true killers don't feel the need to prove themselves. They know what they've done. They know what they're capable of doing. And so they have this confidence that shines through in everything they do, and how they communicate, how they stand, how they present themselves, how they listen to you. They have this confidence in themselves, but no ego about it, because they realize, I think, that one, there's like always bigger fish. As you start to climb through the ladder, you start to become aware like you're just one of thousands. And you're not even that great in the grand scheme of things. You know, there's always somebody further ahead. And I think the further along on the mountain that you go, the more times you see this iterated, like repeated over and over, it becomes this thing that you can't ignore anymore. That you're like, I am not all that. I'm great at what I do, but I'm not all that. And so that was something that I found fascinating, is guys like Charlie Hooper, who has Charisma on Command as his channel on YouTube with like 6 million subs, or Chris Williamson, who's Modern Wisdom podcast, and they just crossed 1 million subs on YouTube as well. These guys spend most of their time listening, not talking, not sharing what they know. Like they're willing to talk and engage and like you know, share their insights, but if left to their own devices, they spent a lot of time just sitting back and observing and listening, consuming. And I think there's a lot to be taken away from there. I think a lot of times our insecurity makes us feel compelled to posture, to tell people about what we do. And I felt this a little bit too myself, because like, full disclosure, I was probably one of the smallest creators there. And so most of those big people, they have no clue who you are. And so there's sometimes this need to be like, oh, I'm legitimate too. And like, you feel this need to like prove yourself. Whereas the big guys, they don't feel that need. Even though there's a lot of guys who have like multiple millions of subs or like followers that the general public just has no clue who they are. And so despite them being very, very big, I'm sure there's still a lot of circumstances in their own life where they're not hanging out with other creators per se, where nobody in the room has a clue who they are. And I think that's a very humbling realization, is that no matter how big your britches get, like most people don't have a clue who you are and they don't care. And so I think that helps put things in perspective so that you never get too far out over your own skis and start sniffing your own, what do they say, smoking your own supply. I don't know if that's the right phrase, but it was really refreshing to be around. It was refreshing to be around legitimate killers who didn't feel the need to like dominate the conversations. And full disclosure, truthfully, like in a lot of my interactions in the last couple of months as like an investor going to these masterminds, talking to other real estate people, like that's not the norm. That's really not the norm. A lot of people feel an insecurity and this compulsion to make everything about them. So I don't know what to do with that information, but it's something that I'm taking forward into my own interactions and saying, like, how do I exude confidence but not ego here? Like, what does that look like to be fully confident in my own capabilities and the fact that I belong in this room? And, you know, that's something else that we're going to unpack in these future episodes, is like the idea of imposter syndrome and how that really starts to manifest itself when you get into these bigger rooms with people who are like so much further along in the game than you. And like, how do you handle that feeling of lack, of feeling like, oh, I don't really belong here. So we're going to unpack that. But for today, that is it. That is the lesson. Confidence, not ego. I hope that brings you a little bit of value. As always, I'll look forward to seeing you back around these parts tomorrow for part 3, lesson number 3 that we're going to unpack in this series. And until then, stay hyper-focused, my friend.